Will young Bruce Wayne's Parisian excursion end up being cut short by a serial killer? Well, let's hop into the pages of Batman the Knight, issue number 3, and find out together, shall we? So, as we rejoin this story, you'll remember that Bruce was studying under famous French super thief, the Grey Shadow. Together, the two had pulled off a daring jewelry heist at the home of Sunrise Oil's CEO, a mysterious man by the name of Hubert Glonet. The police had rushed to this guy's house because they believed he was the next victim of a deadly French serial killer the media has dubbed the Foundling. Only, here's the twist, Glonet actually is the Foundling, and when Bruce and his new friend Lucy robbed this guy's house, they ended up finding his stash of creepy serial killer trophies. This in turn brought them into conflict with Henri Ducard, super detective who's helping out the French police try and track down the Foundling. Only, hey, wait a minute, twist within a twist, Ducard was actually also paid by Alfred to track down Bruce Wayne wherever he ran off to in Europe. In fact, that's his big paying job. And the serial killer gig is really just more of an opportunity to prove to law enforcement how totally smart and necessary he is. Bruce only agrees to call Alfred and tell the butler that he's still very much alive on the condition that Ducard allows Bruce and Lucy to join him in solving this Foundling murder mystery. The clock is also very much ticking on solving this Foundling case, and quickly. Now that Glonet's trophies are out in the open, he figures it's only a matter of time before the cops arrest him. But he refuses to go out like some punk and instead wants to pull off one last great murder before he goes away. Zdarsky does an excellent job with this guy's internal monologue. It starts out all calm and reserved, but eventually is cranked to 11 as he feels the walls close in all around him. The Foundling also very much fits the bill of a proto-supervillain. His weapon of choice are a series of scalpels that he affixes to the ends of his fingers like they were claws. Glonet kills his way out of police custody, and after that, all of France ends up going on a high alert, figuring it's only a matter of time before this guy strikes again with his biggest kill to date. Ducard has reason to believe he knows where the Foundling is going to strike next. Apparently, in his research, he discovered several of the Foundling's other victims went to school with Glonet at a fancy prep school for boys back in the day, including, get this, the current sitting president of France. And I mean, really, if you were a serial killer looking to leave your mark, killing the man with the highest office in the land would certainly get you into the history books. It's right around here I'd probably make a joke about politics, but I realize I know next to nothing about French politicians. Sarkozy, yeah, that's a funny sounding word, isn't it? Bruce and his allies, though, concoct a plan to try and get the killer out in the open by selling off the jewelry box that just so happened to hold the teeth that the Foundling took as trophies. Lucy knows a reputable underworld fence, and Ducard knows the perfect place to have a little meeting. This proves as yet another excellent teachable moment for Bruce, who learns all about getting inside the mind of sick and depraved individuals while also being able to control his surroundings. Even being the best will only take you so far. You need to learn that knowing where to fight is almost as important as knowing how to fight. These are all very important lessons, but what Bruce also needs to know is to not look suspicious and not give himself away, which is exactly what happened. The fence ends up pulling a gun and Ducard gets shot in the guts. As you might have guessed, this causes Bruce to freak the hell out. Yet again in his short life, he is seeing another person shot in front of him. Luckily, Ducard isn't dead, just horribly injured, meaning that Lucy and Bruce are going to have to work alone and put their heads together if they want to bring the Foundling down once and for all. With very few options left, Bruce is forced to once again try and get inside the mind of this killer, and wouldn't you know it, their psychoses are very similar, both orphans trying to find their place in the world, both lashing out at avatars of those who hurt them. And it's with that grim realization all the puzzle pieces start to fall into place. The Foundling isn't going after the president of France. That guy didn't wrong him. He doesn't mean anything to Glonet. But get this, one of the other boys that Glonet went to fancy French prep school with also happened to be an orphan too, only unlike Glonet, who floundered after the death of his parents, this kid actually excelled. Bruce trusts his gut and theorizes that the Foundling would hate this guy worse than anyone else. He's the whole reason that he slays entire families but leaves the children alive, because he's trying to create extensions of himself. And if Glonet thinks this is probably going to be the last murder murder spree he's able to go on before he ends up going to jail, it's a good chance that this is where he's headed. By trusting his intuition, young Bruce is actually able to save this dude's wife and children from getting murdered by the Foundling. Unfortunately, he didn't get there in time to save the dude himself. It's here too we're also reminded that a lot of Bruce's own personal scars regarding death and murder are still very, very fresh, meaning that the second he sees blood, he becomes completely unhinged and beats the Foundling near to death as if he was coming face to face with Joe Chill all over again. Again, hey, what did we say about creating avatars for our own trauma? It's a good thing that Lucy actually shows up and stops him before he goes too far. With the Foundling case finally closed, Lucy ends up actually firing Bruce as her assistant, saying that he makes a terrible thief, still too angry and impulsive, but also that stealing was clearly never his life's ambition and that she only hopes for the best for her little knight. Aww. Bruce will actually be going to help Ducard now. He's still recovering from his gunshot wound and will need an extra pair of hands when it comes to solving mysteries, and Bruce could still use some detective training now. As the comic comes to a close, Bruce actually does make good on calling Alfred, saying that he is alive, that he is well, that he's sorry for making Alfred worry, that he should have been brave enough to tell him about his plan, but at the same time, he's not a little boy anymore that needs Alfred swooping on in to save him. He does plan to come home, but only when he's good and ready. He even tells Alfred he loves him too as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Batman the Night issue number 3, everybody, and once again, Chip Zdarsky shows us that we got something really special here with this newest Batman origin story. What I think is truly great about this newest retelling is just how much time the story spends focusing on Bruce's own emotional growth, as it does him accruing new skills and abilities that will help him become Batman. It's every bit a traditional young man's coming-of-age story as it is your regular old Batman origin story. It's a mix that is such a beautiful combo. I'm shocked it's taken Batman writers so long to hit upon this idea. It's also a series that still has so much room left to grow, as we still have a Bruce who is grappling with his anger and his rage. And I personally cannot wait to see where it goes from here. Overall, I would give this one another very well-deserved 9 out of 10. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind-the-scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.